Welcome to Policy on Demand Week in Review. I'm Karl Russo.
What would you tell clients are your takeaways from this week?
My key takeaway from this week is that House Republican tax writers are determined to maintain a drumbeat of opposition to the current version of the OECD global minimum tax deal. Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith and 7 Republican committee members held meetings with OECD officials and European finance ministers to highlight their opposition. Chairman Smith expressed his intention to pursue tax and trade countermeasures against countries that, in his view, would try to use the OECD agreement on global minimum taxes to steal away American jobs and tax revenue via the so-called undertaxed profits rule and its effect on domestic tax incentives such as the research credit. He also reaffirmed U.S. opposition to digital services taxes that he said discriminate against U.S. companies.
Which question related to policy did you get asked the most, and how did you respond?
The policy question that I was asked the most this week related to the prospects for government funding. The parties remain far apart on a deal and time is running short. Only one of the 12 appropriations bills has passed either chamber, raising the prospect of a government shutdown if a deal is not reached by September 30th, when current funding expires. There are only about a dozen legislative days in September for Congress to pass a short-term funding bill that would kick the can down the road and allow lawmakers more time to negotiate a longer-term solution.
Where should companies focus their attention in the coming week?
The Senate Finance Committee is expected to announce a markup next week of the U.S.-Taiwan tax agreement legislation that would provide treaty-like tax benefits for businesses looking for cross-border investment. In contrast to the partisan divide over appropriations, the Taiwan legislation was introduced in July with bipartisan, bicameral support. Broad support for the legislation makes it one of the few tax vehicles likely to move this year. If the Taiwan bill passes and government funding is extended to late in the calendar year, that sets up the possibility for a legislative engine to carry tax extenders. So far, a deal on tax extenders, including full expensing of research expenditures, favorable interest deductibility rules, and bonus depreciation, remains elusive as disagreements persist around state and local tax deduction relief and the child tax credit.